everyone. Welcome to Denman's Den. Again, this is Kathy Denman. Um, I'm getting up from my sick bed. I have a diagnosis of COVID that I'm for the second time in my life I am going through right now. I am better than I was a couple of days ago, but I still have a little bit of a sore throat and occasional coughing, so you might hear that when I'm sharing this with you tonight. But I felt the need to get on YouTube right away and respond to something that's been bothering me all day today because I've been sick. I've had a chance to spend some time lying down and reading and researching and kind of filling myself in on what's going on in the world in general, and in particular right now everyone seems to be focused on the assassination of Mr. Charlie Kirk. And I've been reading all kinds of social media posts, everything from mourning his death to celebrating it. And that really concerned me, the celebration part especially, because if you've been listening to my last YouTube broadcasts, you know that I'm certainly not a conservative. Okay, that I've made that pretty clear. I wouldn't call myself a liberal either, but I'm definitely not a MAGA person, and I definitely don't lean in the direction of conservatism in very many areas of my life. So, having said that, obviously I wouldn't be someone who was a fan of Charlie Kirk and his commentary and his rhetoric, but nevertheless, I am aggrieved by reading so much hate and cruelty on social media regarding him and his death. He was a man with a wife and children, and he had a life, and he was a human being. And so I feel that we need to kind of take a look at ourselves here very seriously. And so I kind of wrote this quick little brief reflection titled Reflecting on Responses to Charlie Kirk's Death, The Cycle of Rhetorical Harm. And then the subtitle is How Celebration Can Mirror the Very Evil that it Condemns. So let me get started by sharing with you that, by introducing this reflection with, just reflecting on the passing of Charlie Kirk in particular, but in general, the passing of public figures often prompts polarized reactions. I can think back in my past to the assassination of President Kennedy when I was a girl, and Senator Robert Kennedy when I was older, and of course Martin Luther King Jr. when I was older. But and other attempted assassinations, throughout my life, and I can remember, the various polarized reactions to all of those, either assassination attempts or actual assassinations. Especially when those public figures are known for controversial issues and controversial rhetoric. And in this case, Charlie Kirk, as a prominent conservative commentator, has certainly evoked strong emotions throughout his career. In the wake of his death, some people have chosen not only to critique his legacy, but to openly celebrate his passing. And what I want to do is to both explore and reiterate how such celebrations can inadvertently propagate and perpetuate the same harmful dynamics found in Kirk's rhetoric, creating a cycle of negativity and moral contradiction. Charlie Kirk's public persona was built on provocative statements. That's what he did for a living, basically. And his statements often targeted marginalized groups or political opponents. His rhetoric polarized audiences, reinforced divisions, and encouraged animosity. Critics argue that his words contributed to a climate of intolerance and anger. Now, hear me. While it is important to hold public figures accountable for the impact of their speech, and that needed to have been done with Charlie Kirk, and occasionally was done, the way that society responds to their, in this case, murder and passing, his death, can either reinforce or break the cycle of harm that he may have started. We can break that cycle or we can continue it. And what I am purporting here is that by celebrating his death, some of us are continuing the same cycle of harm that he started. When individuals celebrate the death of someone like Charlie Kirk, they risk embodying the very qualities that they have condemned in him. Joy over a person's death or demise, regardless of their actions, reflects a lack of empathy and compassion. And such responses can be rooted in anger and vindictiveness. And in that sense, they are mirroring the antagonistic spirit of Kirk's own rhetoric. This behavior perpetuates a cycle where hostility is met with more hostility, making it difficult for society to move toward understanding and healing. The cycle of evil here, condemning Charlie Kirk for promoting division and cruelty, while simultaneously, rejoicing in his death, creates a moral paradox. It suggests that cruelty is an acceptable response to perceived cruelty, undermining the ethical standards that critics are trying to uphold. So basically, celebrating his death is undermining the very ethical standards that the people doing the celebrating are trying to lift up for people to follow, to understand, and to live by. And they end up doing more damage to their cause than helping it. This contradiction, this moral paradox, can diminish the credibility of those who seek to challenge harmful rhetoric, as it demonstrates an inconsistency between their values and their actions. It's basically hypocrisy. Evil, in the context of rhetoric and behavior, is often defined by the intent to harm or destroy others, or dehumanize them, or completely exclude them. By celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, some individuals are engaging in the same dehumanization they attribute to him. This then perpetuates a cycle where each side justifies its actions by, calling attention to the wrongs of the other. Now, my mother, she used to say to me frequently when I was growing up, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And this cycle of answering a wrong or an evil with another wrong or an evil, rather than promoting justice or accountability, for hostile rhetoric, such responses risk normalizing cruelty and making it into a valid form of expression in this country, basically. Moreover, and this is really important that you hear this, okay? When the public responds to the death of a polarizing figure with celebration, it inadvertently fuels the propaganda machinery of those in power who thrive on division. Such reactions are often seized upon and amplified by leaders and by the media outlets that go along with them in seeking to deepen existing cultural and political rifts in the country. By perpetuating cycles of hostility, these responses play directly into the hands of those who benefit from a divided and fractured society, making it easier to manipulate public sentiment and maintain control over the nation's social and political discourse. So in order for us to stop that from happening, and to truly challenge the negative legacy of polarizing figures in our rhetorical discourse, we, as the Society of the United States of America, we must resist the urge to respond with similar animosity and hatred. Instead, it is essential to model the values of empathy, respect, and constructive dialogue. Criticism of harmful rhetoric can and should occur. I'm not saying it shouldn't. But it should occur without resorting to, assassinating the person doing the harmful rhetoric, of course, but also without resorting to celebrating the death of the person that has done the harmful rhetoric. By choosing compassion over vindictiveness, individuals, we, as individual Americans, can break the cycle and foster a more humane and inclusive public discourse in this country. The celebration of Charlie Kirk's death serves as a cautionary example of how easy it is to fall into the same patterns of harm that one seeks to oppose. If society, particularly American society, wishes to move beyond the polarization and divisiveness that is characterized by the rhetoric of people like Charlie Kirk, it must confront its own impulses toward cruelty and choose a path of empathy and ethical consistency. Only then can we hope to create a public sphere defined not by cycles of evil, but by genuine empathy, compassion, and understanding, and thus make progress in our public and private discourse with one another. As Martin Luther King so wisely wrote, the ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence, you may murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I encourage you to go back and look at my videos on love, as well as on propaganda, and as well as on the rhetoric of Christian nationalism, of which Charlie Kirk was a part of that as well. And I think if you look at all three of those videos, you will understand more clearly why I felt the need tonight to say what I have said, and to end my time with you by quoting Dr. King, who said it better than I ever could, that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So thank you for listening to my kind of emergency reflection tonight, but I really felt a strong calling to share this with you. And please do listen to it in this 24-hour period that we're in. Today is the 13th of September, and I hope that you will. It's actually just a little bit after midnight, so I'm. I thought it was the 12th, so we're actually on the 13th, and so I hope that at some point today you will listen to this and really give it some deep thought, please. And please feel free to write comments, to disagree, to agree, whatever you want to do. I'm going to also put it on my Facebook page and my Denman's Den page on Facebook, and I will put it also on Substack and Instagram. So, again, thank you for joining me tonight, and God bless you. Have a good rest of the night.